U.S. President Joe Biden came to his first State of the Union address Tuesday night with tough words for autocrats and soothing words for his beleaguered constituents. Battered by a grueling pandemic, rising prices, and political divides. Throughout, Biden emphasized the same values he urged Americans to embrace in his inaugural speech: unity. Voice of America's White House correspondent Anita Powell reports.
Good day to our audience at PTV Manila from Washington. President Joe Biden's first State of the Union address focused and started with the crisis that has gripped global attention: the escalating violence in Ukraine. He spent the first 10 or so minutes of his roughly hour-long speech talking about the fact that, in his view, the United States and NATO allies are resolute in countering President Vladimir Putin's push to invade Ukraine, and also united in their resolution against any autocratic leadership anywhere in the world. He stressed the United States is a values-based society that values rule of law and that such behavior will not be tolerated. To that end, he reminded the American people and anyone watching that the U.S. has leveled several waves of pretty harsh sanctions against the Russian president and his inner circle and Russian banks. And this evening during this speech, he announced that there would be a no-fly zone over U.S. airspace for Russian aircraft, and that goes into effect on March 2nd. In other areas in this major speech, which is a kind of a landmark event for a U.S. president, it's constitutionally mandated that he give this speech every single year. And it's usually used to sell the American public and legislators critically on important bills that the president feels need to be passed to further his vision for his country. And so, of course, like every U.S. president, Joe Biden focused in this speech on the American economy. And to that end, he talked about how he believes that American manufacturers have to step up and be given more incentive to produce more things at home to counter what he says is Chinese dominance of world markets. He also discussed other issues that are very relevant and quite contentious in the United States. He talked about his stance on gun violence, on the accessibility of high caliber assault rifles. He also talked about reproductive rights, about LGBTQIA rights. He also talked about his view on voting rights. These are all pieces of legislation that he hopes to pass. He also mentioned his choice for the Supreme Court. We had a recent retirement on the U.S. Supreme Court, and this is a lifetime appointment, and he is appointed as his nominee, rather. He's nominated the first Black female justice who will soon go through the nomination process, and as he said, he hopes will get a seat on this highest court of the land. Reception to his speech was mixed. While he was talking about Ukraine, he did get several rounds of applause and standing ovations from legislators, both Democrat and Republican, who have been staunchly opposed to him in many other matters. But it seemed to be that the chamber was really rallying around him in his support of the people of Ukraine. And as if to underscore that, one of the special guests in the First Lady's box was the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., and she was recognized by the whole chamber and applauded, and many members of Congress waved blue and gold Ukrainian flags. Another thing that he also talked about that was perhaps welcome and will be welcomed by some Americans is his contention that the U.S. has fought a good fight against the COVID pandemic, against this tireless virus, and we seem to be making progress and gaining an advantage over this virus. And as if to underscore that, this full chamber of Congress, there was not a single mask, not a single face mask in sight, because in the city of D.C., the mask mandate did expire today. And so no one in the chamber was wearing masks, and it almost looked like normality. And that was really the point that Joe Biden was trying to make in this speech. It harkened back to his inaugural address, where he spoke about the need for unity in the United States. This is a very deeply politically divided country, and he has sought as president to unite Americans behind a common purpose, behind a common vision. And he said some words that I think he's said as senator before, and he continues to say as president. He told the people of the United States, and indeed the people of the world, it's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And That's unlikely to sway too many Americans, especially as they head to the polls in coming months for critical midterm elections. But that may get a few people on his side, and we'll be analyzing this speech for days to come. We'll be picking it apart, and there will surely be other revelations and other fallout from it. But tonight, as he gave this historic address, this first State of the Union address, Joe Biden's coming out of it looking like a consensus builder, looking like somebody who's trying to unify his divided nation. Thank you so much. I'm Voice of America's Anita Powell in Washington for PTV Manila.
Thank you so much. That was Voice of America's White House correspondent.